Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to talk about this new palette from YSL, the Golden Oasis palette. And I know that many of you have an eye on this palette, but I do feel the need to de-influence you a bit, because I have some thoughts. First, I'm going to talk about the shades in this palette. The palette contains 3 blushes and 3 highlighters. I will also discuss the formula and then I'm going to share my thoughts with you. So let's get started. The face palette contains 3 blushes and 3 highlighters. It's made in Italy and it has a 24-month shelf life, and you'll get 27 grams of product. I've paid 75 euros for this palette, and when I placed my order I wasn't aware of the fact that this palette is part of the holiday collection from Yves Saint Laurent. I really thought that this was like a limited edition release for fall, but it turns out that this is part of the holiday collection. It wasn't listed like that, but it doesn't matter. So this is part of the holiday collection, and in that holiday collection you'll also find lip gloss and 1 eyeshadow palette and fragrance. And what I also didn't realize when I made my purchase is that some of these shades are existing shades. So I really thought that this was going to be a palette with 6 brand new colors, but I was wrong. When I placed my order, the shade names weren't listed. So I assumed that all 6 shades were going to be new shades, but I was very wrong, because there are only 2 new shades in this palette. The 3 blushes are existing shades, no new ones. And one of the highlighters, this one right here, is also an existing shade. So only the other 2 highlighters, this pinky one and this bronzy one, those are new shades. All other shades in this palette are existing shades. The first shade in this palette is a blush. It's Restless Rose number 93, and this is a beautiful coral pink with a golden sheen. This is one of my favorite blushes from the brand. I have this one in the OG round packaging, and this is by far the blush that I used most during summertime. I absolutely love this shade. This blush has a glowy finish, so you don't necessarily need to put a highlighter on top of the blush. I actually think it looks better without highlighter. That's how I prefer to use it. Just as blush, no highlighter on top of it. Again, it has this beautiful glowy, golden glowy finish. It looks stunning on the cheeks. Next to this blush you'll find a highlighter. This one is called Hypnotic Honey, and this is an existing shade, not a new shade. This one came out a couple of months ago. This is definitely not my favorite highlighter. I do like the color, but for me it's a little bit too glittery. In the next row you'll find a new shade. This is a highlighter called Hallucinating Pink. I think this shade is gorgeous. It has some beautiful pink and silvery particles, but again it's very, very glittery. And next to this new highlighter you'll find another existing shade. This is a blush number 44, Nude Lavalier, and this is a mauvey pink shade. In the bottom row you'll find another existing blush. This is Berry Bang number 54. Next to it a new highlighter, a beautiful bronzy color. This one is called Bronzed Dunes number 22. And again, this Bronzed Dunes highlighter contains a lot of glitter. So this is not a product that I would use on my cheeks. I just do not like glittery highlighters. I did try this on my eyes and that looked much, much better. So formula wise, I already told you the highlighters in this palette are extremely glittery. If that's something you like, then I'm pretty sure you will like these highlighters. But if you do not like glitters in your highlighter, then you won't get a lot of use out of these three new highlighters. I've bought a YSL highlighter at the beginning of this year that was a white, creamy white shade. I believe it's called Libertine Light. That one contained also like a little bit of glitter. It was more like sparkles in there. But those other two shades that YSL came out with, the Hypnotic Honey, which is also in this palette, and the Rosy shade, those two contained much more glitter than that creamy white color. So I was a little bit afraid that the highlighters in this palette would also contain a lot of glitter, and yeah, well, they do. So the highlighters in this palette aren't highlighters I will be using a lot, unfortunately. Now the YSL blushes are a completely different story. I really like and enjoy the YSL blush formula of the powder blushes. Some of them have a matte finish, others have a glowy finish. I like both. I enjoy both formulas, both finishes. The formula is creamy, feels very soft, definitely not dry at all. The formula is also very long lasting, and I always apply the YSL blushes with this brush. This is a collab from Fude Japan and Curado. This is my favorite brush for the YSL blushes. And this is a squirrel hair brush, and for me this works best with the YSL blush formula. It picks up the perfect amount of product and it spreads the powder so evenly on the skin. I can't achieve that with a goat hair brush or a synthetic hair brush. And I'm not saying here that other brushes do not work with this blush. That's definitely not the case. We all have our own preferences. But for me, this brush gives the perfect finish. And I'm telling you this because I know that some of you have issues with the YSL blush formula. I know that some of you don't like how the powder sits on the skin. I know that some of you said to me it looks a bit heavy sometimes. I've also heard complaints about patchiness. I can't relate to any of these complaints because I just never had issues with the formula, and I think it has to do with the brush. So that's why I wanted to show you the brush that I always use for these blushes from YSL. I think that this brush is made for the YSL blushes. I told you I want to de-influence you a bit. I'm not gonna judge you if you buy this, because I mean this is a gorgeous palette. The packaging is beautiful, it's very luxe, and of course the shades in this palette are very pretty too. So I'm not gonna judge you for buying this, but I just want to tell you that please think about whether you really need and want this palette. You know, the thing is with this palette, I expected and I had hoped for 6 brand new shades. But what we get is only 2 new shades. And yeah, it kind of feels like an easy money grab. So, you know, let's bring out a limited edition palette for the holidays and we'll just put our best selling shades in that palette and we'll add 2 new ones. It's not enough. YSL. No, you should at least give us 3 new shades. And it would have been even better if you would give us 6 new shades, YSL. So yeah, that's the reason I am a little bit disappointed in this palette. We see 3 blushes that we already know, nothing new, and 1 highlighter that we already know, and 2 new highlighters that are way too glittery. So yeah, again, I am a little bit disappointed about that. But the good news is, if you do not have these 3 blushes in your collection yet, then this might be a good opportunity to add them to your collection. Because the palette will cost you 75 euros, which will also be around 75 US dollar, I guess. So you'll get 3 blushes and 3 highlighters for 75 euros. If you have to buy these single blushes and you have to buy 3, it will cost you more. So, you know, maybe that's a good reason to purchase this palette. Furthermore, these types of palettes come in very handy for traveling, for vacation. I think it's always very convenient to have several products in one palette, so I can travel light and I don't have to bring all of my stuff. So, you know, for that purpose, this is a very good palette. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. I'm wishing you a wonderful day and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.